Share. Yeah, is it the paint visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Bear with the drawing. Yeah,
That's okay. It's a good.
yeah, that's what happens when you use trackpad for drawing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll just like today, I thought like the major forefronts which are much needed to understand, like, other things like future things. Why do we do this, like the analysis? Like if you see in the future, like one of the analysis is impedance analysis itself. And like where you actually try to find the scattering parameters and you use it for like for hanging, uh, I'm not sure with the other term, like you basically you use for like further optimizing it. So why do we do all those stuff is like the major thing is that like essentially like why microwave engineering, because if you see like the frequency range of it, that goes like from 1 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz, and if you find the correspondingly wavelength of it, that corresponds to the size of certain centimeters or something. So that's very near to the size of the electronic chips which we are developing right now. So then there's kind of like an resonance which might happen because your frequency is in the range of your wavelength, and because of that there are like a lot of quantum fluctuations which happen in the circuits, which, and that is like an entire different study where you study about the quantum fluctuations in electrical circuits because of that particular effect. So where it involves like various components like inductors and capacitors, when you're actually using them into the in the microwave frequency range, what so happens is that they initially have their inductance and capacitance value, but due to all these external effects they develop kind of like an additional static, like you'll have additional static inductance or like static capacitance coming into picture, and that actually affects a lot of the working. So that's why people essentially like microwave engineering is like one kind of a big thing, and you don't have infrared engineering or radio wave engineering and like that much how much you have microwave coming down into a particular electrical domain, because every time we're sizing down a chip, so there's more effects happening. So essentially the major things which we use in the analysis is like the resonators, which we would have often heard like with qubits and all, they're coupled with resonators and for reading it out. So what are resonators basically is that uh, resonance, like everyone is aware about that, at a particular frequency you have like your things vibrate at a much higher amplitude. So either you can use them like when they like when basically, which means that suppose when you vibrate, like something is like it's matched with certain things, so it goes on a higher amplitude, which basically means it's able to generate say waveforms at a particular constant amplitude with not much phase difference. So that's like an optimum waveforms which you can generate, like because it's only working like coming on that particular frequency. So either you use resonators for like waveform generators, or you use them like for selecting a particular frequency. So suppose it's basically kind of like your, suppose if I have like this kind of a square, so and if I have other Lego blocks, suppose if this particular size or this particular size or like much more smaller or like really very big ones, so uh, the only Lego block which can go through this particular square hole will be the one which has the exact same dimension as this particular thing. So that's what happened when that is like you're selecting a particular frequency, that means when you have range of frequencies going along with the resonators, so it only select it at a particular frequency which maps on with the resonator's frequency. It will select that frequency, and they are coupled. Like that's the main function, like where you want to take out that particular frequency and you map it. Like that's how you used in the qubits, like for reading it out. So this is about resonators. The transmission line is basically, you can think of like a train which takes you from one point to the other point, and in what it takes is basically voltage and current waves from one point to the other, which basically means you're trying to transfer power from this particular point to this particular point. So that's it. Nothing else. So if we see our TV cables, you would see like there's a black covering outside, and then inside we'll see something white in nature, that is dielectric, and inside that you'll see a wire, mainly copper wire, coming down there. So this is like basically you are trying to transfer power over long distances, and that's why we use transmission line, because they give us less amount of noises and there is less attenuation over the long distances. So that's why we use them for long distance transmission of power, and like those are used like in the grids and all. So they are basically used for transmitting something, like that can be essentially like your signal, like, or like majorly it's your voltage and current wave. And because why wave? Because essentially like in electromagnetic field theory, like you have like standing waves going on there. So when you write the voltage and current equations, you have like voltage standing wave ratio, which actually comes like much more further into detail. You define voltage and current as electromagnetic waves which propagate along your particular transmission line from one point to the other. So yeah, and coming down to this particular block, waveguides and coplanar waveguides. So just imagine you have two people, one over here, they are separated. So, and this person is actually trying to convey some information to this particular person, and you would see that the sound, like the flux density of sound, eventually decreases as that distance moves on. So what happens is that if this person is telling like some sending up some information, so there would be a degradation, and there will be like the only, like, essentially you can say if a person transmits the information from this particular point, that means it's they are giving like 100% of it, but it might so happen that only 30% of the power of the signal is received over here. That's why it happened, because if you see it on a larger picture, this is particularly like they're sending it in a spherical, like it's like a 360 curve which is there. So that means your sound energy is distributed along the entire sphere. So it's not only in this particular direction, but it's in the entire sphere, which actually means like your power is distributed in lot of more terms. And that's why over the distance you would see that though you send 100% power, but you are able to receive only 20% of it, like most of it is attenuated. So the reason why is that because the medium which we're trying to communicate, it absorbs a lot more amount of energy, and that is why we really can't take that for like in electrical part where you want to transfer certain signals. So that's why we use waveguides. They are just like they are like conducting plates, like if you can just think of them like parallel plates. So we send a signal essentially while in our particular thing, we communicate, like we transfer our microwave signals to this coplanar waveguides. And what happens is that like when it's inside this particular medium, there are like certain things which can happen. Is one is the reflection, the second one is the absorption of power by the inner surface, and then it can be like there can be like pitch variation. Like suppose you're sending wave from this particular area, or you're sending it from this particular area, or you're sending it like from the middle of the like the starting point. So all these things will bring about phase differences and even pitch variations into your signals. That comes under the dispersion which we have. So reflection, what happens is that suppose your wave is coming and it's going like this, so it will have one vector which will be like coming downwards. So it might get hit over here and it might get deflected over here. So suppose if this isn't like the incident vector, and and if your inner surfaces are like quite very well prepared, that means they are properly and that means they have least absorption ratio, it can like your 100% of your incident wave can be reflected backwards. So like if you have amplitude of 1 over here, even the reflected wave will have an amplitude of 1. So that is like the internal reflections which happen. And second is like the absorption of power. That is the reason why like this brings out the difference in the amplitude of like the power of the reflected signal and the input signal, because all these are conducting. And if you work it out like at really very high frequencies, it might so happen that the surfaces tend to absorb certain amount of power, and that's what degrades the signal over a long time. But essentially, like that's how you design your coplanar, like you design your waveguides, and they come in different structures. Like for say coplanar waveguides would be something, if I draw, would be something like this. You have a conducting thing, and then you have a dielectric in between, and then again you have one conducting thing. So technically it's like a 3-lane road where your gap is nothing but the dividers, if you can think of, and this is conducting, this is conducting, and this is the dielectric. So your waves actually travel like this, and even the between them, and that's how they propagate. So but they are very effective because they have like almost negligible power dissipation over the entire transmission. So this is like, and you would have seen like the spiral thing, like zigzag curves which you have. So like there's a reasons why we have certain things like that in electronics. And this is about the waveguides and the coplanar waveguides. They are just like they're used for a better effective transmission of microwave signals. So to interact with the qubit, like sending in the pulses, taking out the readouts. So for that we use coplanar waveguides. And something which is really very important in microwave engineering is the impedance matching technique. So we would have studied in a high school about maximum power transfer, where your the output load, which is you are fixing it. Load can be anything. It can be a refrigerator, it can be a mobile, or it can be even a resistor. So when you fix that up with your particular circuit, so and suppose if I keep up a circuit over here, so over here, so and if I have my resistor over here, and I have my load over here. So if this particular value is R, and if this is RL, and yeah, and this is R, and if my voltage is V, so we say that when RL equals R, you will have the maximum power which is being transferred. And so that can be that we sum it up as V square by 4R, where your R is nothing but RL. And otherwise it wouldn't have, like the maximum power wouldn't have been transferred if they are not had been same. So there's a calculation for that. So same reason happens is that, like suppose you want, like suppose you have a qubit over here, and like you are standing over here, suppose. So you want to communicate with it. So you have a transmission line, then the coplanar waveguide. So you would want that the impedance at the input end and the impedance, like the net impedance which is there at this particular, that means it will comprise the qubit. So they should be matched. The reason why, because the signal which you're trying to send from here, the microwave signal, you would want that it should retain 100% of its power, and then it should interact with the qubit over here. So that is what happens, like we do the impedance matching thing. So if you see the signal over here, like the block diagram, so you have kind of a load over here, then you have a source over here. So suppose we have like a characteristic impedance of say Z naught. Characteristic impedance basically means like when you transform a transmission line into a lumped circuit model, it gets replaced by resistors, your RLC and even the G. So it's basically the most elemental part. So all those things, they tend to have their own resistances, impedances value, because they can have even phase transformations. So they have like complex values also coming in. So that's why we said impedance. So they have their like, so your net impedance at the initial stage, you define that as like more of a like characteristic impedance. So if I see over here, so if I look at from this side, so I would want to see an impedance of Z naught. And why? Because my until over here, my impedance is Z naught. So to match with like, to have the input, like the impedance same at the input and the output end, like on the both hand side. So if the impedance of this particular whole part should nothing be equal to Z naught, but just say this thing has an impedance of this ZL. So and ZL is not equal to Z naught. So what you have something called as matching units. So what they actually do is they are inbuilt functions over here, like the connection which you make. And if you write it down the equations, like we can derive it, but like what should be the equation? So essentially like if this, so suppose I will derive it also over here. So suppose your impedance of this thing is Zm. So the equation says that your Zm should be nothing but square root of ZL and Z naught. So if I put up a impedance thing between them, which has an equivalent of under root of ZL into Z naught, if I look at from this particular side, I would see that my impedance is nothing but Z naught. So the way we get this particular equation, it's kind of very easy. Suppose if I look at from over here, you would get something as known as like normalized impedance, which is basically like, suppose if I have a voltage source V, so V is like your suppose this particular value is X. So if I put an X over here, so that will be nothing but something called V divided by Zm. And yeah, like then if you see with the power transformation, like maximum power transfer, which is P equals V square by R, and then if you further calculate it, like substitute the V value, which is like again with the Z1, so you end up getting this particular equations. So this is like the maximum impedance matching. So with the analysis, if we see in like the impedance analysis, we come out with the S parameters which are there. So you might heard of like, Y parameter, Z parameter, H parameters, ABCD parameters, which are there in electronics. Like you have like 2-port systems. Suppose if I see, suppose you have a system over here, and this is the like, okay, yeah. So basically it's a system, 2-port system, like you have input output. So essentially like you tend to find ABCD parameters, so which basically means that okay, yeah, let's go. So the input current over here will be I1, V1, and over here this would be I2 and V2. So and this like you further define, and then you write the voltage equations like upon the parameters. So what information you can get is like basically when this particular line is shorted, what is your current value? Like you basically try to get, what is your input and output voltages and current for a particular network inside. Like if you're not really well sure about the network versus inside, so you can get the information about that. but we really can't use them in the microwave analysis. The reason being because like at such high frequencies, these particular parameters, they really can't, because the systems at that very high frequency, they tend to be like not that stable. And so you really can't apply these particular techniques. And the second reason why you can't apply these things is because you can't have like short circuit or open circuit when using microwave frequencies. But over here, to calculate these ABCD parameters, you need to short particular ports, and then you get the parameter value. So we use something called as S parameters. So S parameters, like they basically like they give you information about like the same things, but for like they give the information about if you say like the voltage connection between them, and like the different currents and voltages flowing inward or outward. So they give you like at like for microwave, we usually use S parameters, like this that's also called as scattering parameters. So like that will be like we'll have like further discussions about them on like when we discuss the impedance analysis. So this was the thing until now. So if we see like, okay, any questions over here until now?
Yeah, I had a doubt over here.
Yeah.
So the first step that you took, seeing if we go to the left hand side of the impedance matching part, you told when you look towards the right, you'll have an impedance of Z naught. Shouldn't we get an impedance of ZL if you're looking to the right? Because if you're looking to the right in the loop, the only resistance that we occur, the only impedance that we have is ZL, right?
Yeah.
Why do we have Z naught under that?
Yeah. So what I said was that for an impedance matching, if I look at from this particular side, I would want the impedance to be equal to Z naught. Then only there will be impedance matching, right?
Okay, the matching would occur. Okay, in that sense. Okay.
Yeah,
got it,
that
got it.
particular way.
Okay, thanks.
So that's why we have matching units placed, because we really don't know always, like loads might change. So you develop matching unit circuits, which accordingly, you know, work it out. There's thing like you have like amplification, and there's quite a good stuff over there. So any further doubt?
No, thanks, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I guess then. Okay, so like these are the components things. I guess you would have already gone through and would have experimented a lot. So yeah, actually nothing but so like this, like you develop like the CPWs. So and with the other part, impedance thing, which I was talking, like which we will cover, because today I thought like we'll just have an overview, because when we do the impedance analysis, like understanding of all these things is quite necessary, like impedance matching, what it is and how do we do, like because over the a lot of parameters come out to be together. So yeah, I guess this is good enough for today. Probably like if you see all these parameters, admittance value as like this is the scattering parameters value y, like, and yeah, like the Z parameters, admittance is y, and as these S parameters, and there are significance about S11, S21, S22. So that is like when essentially when we'll work it out with the analysis, then that would be like, much effective to understand. So I guess I'll stop that for today.
Just one doubt, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll be using only the S parameters, right? For designing quantum hardware. Will we need other?
Yeah,
Z and
you
Y?
have like there's something called BBQ impedance analysis, black box quantization, where they actually use the Z parameters to tune in.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, like if you go to the metal tutorials also, they haven't really discussed impedance analysis. They just show out the plots, but yeah, but because to do that, like there are papers like from Nig and others, like they have done like it's a lot more theoretical stuff, like that's why impedance plays a very great role in like in electronics, because you like it's kind of like a resonance for us, like if we say. So where you over there you match the frequencies, over here we match the impedances, and then we get our things very easily are done. The second things I guess which I didn't show, I guess that's very important, is that why why electrical circuits behave like much more in quantumly when in the microwave frequency range. The reason is that when you see the capacitors and inductors, so when you have those impedances, like if you see the impedance, so it's 1 by j omega c, and that is j omega l. So what happens is that at really very high, like at that frequency of like the microwave, it might so happen that there are something called as parasitic effects which develop inside them, which basically means that at those frequencies, your capacitors tend to gain some inductor behavior, and your inductors, they tend to gain certain capacitor behavior. So that is like they trade off mutually between them, and this actually is like very tricky, because that is the some things which the engineers they try to get rid of. Like that's how they like they work morely on like designing like the waveguides properly, like which shape, the size and all. Because when we do the analysis, like that's what, because again the waveguides are like kind of like conductive plates parallel, so you can develop kind of like capacitance between them, like the circular in nature, so it's not that very there. So but over there, yeah, you have certain losses, so because to avoid them we tend to develop much more better designs. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nilay. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so looks like what I understand was the S parameters are important for microwave impedance.
yeah, you can see that
representation.
that's like the basics, like you only
That's a
need
basic.
S parameters for microwave analysis, I think.
And the S parameter measurements, I think they are doing with the vector network analyzer, something like too. But I think that means the ANSYS is doing that, or the metal is doing that one, the test parameter analysis.
The ANSYS is doing actually, because
Okay.
like the lumped model goes out there and then it checks on like with the frequencies, like it matches, like so that part ANSYS is doing. Like,
Okay.
like metal is just like you can say like just to show your parameters out there, nothing else. Because
Yeah.
over here, if you see in the code also, it was like we taken the parameters from the ANSYS and then plotted out over here.
Oh yeah, agree.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay.
So Nilay, if I want to like